ready for this? 'Cause I make
Voices of Victory podcast show. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory podcast show.
It is now time for the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mario Delia.
Welcome to Voices of Victory, the podcast where we explore vision, leadership, and self-esteem in all of its dynamic glory. And I'm Mario De Leone, your host, your guide, and your occasional philosopher on this magic carpet ride. We're going to go over a few things today that are going to be quite exciting. And I first want to express that I have a profound and ongoing joy of studying human psychology and human behavior. And I'm dedicating myself every day to the learning. And I want to state that I'm by no means a psychologist. I want to share that. I'm going to be upfront about that. And I'm okay with that. Because my passion for understanding the human mind and behavior drives me deeply to study more and more every day. I put a lot of hard work into my own learning. And someone I hold very close to my heart as a dear friend is both a psychiatrist and a psychotherapist. And he plays a significant and integral role in my life. And I've gained a wealth of knowledge from him over the past 25 years or more. Simply because I never stop picking his brain. I'm always asking questions and diving deeper on the topics and subject matter. And to be honest, I'm probably driving him crazy, no pun intended. But that's his business, no pun intended, to sort out in the end. And it's not mine. But I'm his friend. I care about him. And I enjoy learning from him because he's a great teacher. So I bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, the castle concept as it relates to leadership and our lives. Now, imagine this. Imagine for a moment you're the ruler of your grand castle, and that castle represents your inner world and your personal life. It's the introverted part of who you are. And the castle's perched on a high hill right at the apex. And the castle is your personal world. It's your place of value. It's a place of strength. And it's your safety. It's a place of your solace. It represents all the things you internally value and all the things that you hold dear in your life. Surrounding your castle is your moat. It represents your boundaries. It represents the boundaries that you should hold or even could hold, depending on who you are. The drawbridge is the only way in, ladies and gentlemen. And it only lowers for those who demonstrate that they are willing to reciprocate mutually. It has an interesting meaning here, because it has nothing to do with quote-unquote worthy of entry. It reflects the idea that it should be mutually full of reciprocity. That self-respect and reciprocity, these qualities are necessary for a healthy, balanced relationship. And this is more about your self-respect and reciprocity. It's not about thumbing our nose against other people and calling them not worthy. and say, well, they don't match my values, so I'm not going to let them into my life. And there's some people that actually do that. That's not what I'm saying here. I want to be very clear about this. This is not about judging someone's quote unquote worthiness. This is assessing whether their intentions, actions, and their very behaviors align with what's inside the castle, which is your values and, of course, your boundaries. You have sovereignty over your own life and over your own castle. Sovereignty means to rule over. You're ruling over your own life, ruling over your health, ruling over parts of your inner world. It's your energy, it's your time, it's your growth, and it's your harmonious life that you can have. You could say there's rules and behaviors to get inside the castle, to allow people into your life, allow them to come into your heart. And most of them are related to your boundaries and what you're willing to personally accept as a limit. And to gain access to this castle, your visitors must prove their intentions. Must prove their intentions, their kindness, and of course through their actions. And offering you mutual respect. And this you would give back in return. And you would give them honesty back in return. And their honesty and respect are tokens of entry. And this is not a transactional journey where you just give to get. No, this is mutually full of reciprocity. Why is it reciprocal? Because you are sharing your personal treasure once they come into your life. Once they're in your life, this is about understanding your value, your self-worth, and sharing your life with them. See, when you value yourself and you value your self-worth, then sharing parts of who you are is far more special. We don't want to look at your self-worth as being mundane. You're sharing personal, special things. That's why it's mutual. And while it may seem like it's a one-sided transaction, it's not. You're actually sharing your personal kingdom. You're sharing your love with whoever enters. And this helps us to understand that some people guard the gates for no reason. This is why some people hold up boundaries so harshly and maybe even for the wrong reasons. This is not a give to get entry for getting into the castle, that you must do X in order to get Y. No, not at all. That is not the case here. It is not transactional. You are sharing a special part of who you are. It's reciprocal. They're going to share with you their castle and their internal treasures. And it's the ability to share what you have on the inside. And the entry of this castle is based on mutuality. And I want to be redundant about that, because a lot of people will take this concept and twist it up in 7 ways till Sunday. It's about mutuality, the mutual reciprocity of respect, honesty, and sharing your own values, your internal self-worth, your internal treasures with them, and they're sharing their internal treasures with you. If someone tries to cross the drawbridge without these acts that are necessary, then the drawbridge will stay firmly raised and shut. The castle doesn't crumble or chase after anyone. It remains steadfast for you. And you are protecting your internal kingdom, your internal treasure, your internal self-worth. And it's only when you grant entry to those who understand your value. And you have to be able to value yourself. You have to be able to value your own treasure, your own castle, your own internal world. It's your treasure, and it's your self-respect that should be treasured. And we have to treasure it, because if we don't treasure it, no one else will. The castle symbolizes your sense of self, and the moat represents your personal boundaries. And the drawbridge signifies the effort that others must put in to connect with you. Because it's all about you sharing your kingdom with their kingdom and them sharing their kingdom with you. That's why it's mutual. It's a reminder that when you are maintaining your inner strength, it means only allowing those who value you and those who want to share your world, and that their words match their actions, not incongruous behavior. And the tokens for entry into your castle are trust, respect, and reciprocity. Even action and words must match. This is to ensure that only those who enter can access your inner world and share your personal treasure. And you get to experience their personal treasure. Your emotions, your time, your wisdom, your resources. And you have to carefully guard these treasures because you're creating a meaningful, balanced relationship that's designed for you to enrich your life and enrich the lives of others. And it's all while you are protecting your kingdom from exploitation. So the psychological truths behind the castle concept is this extends beyond just emotional and relational dynamics. It really includes boundaries of time, and time is a vital and finite resource. And just as you guard your inner self and well-being, you must also protect how you allow others to access and use your time. So think of it this way. It's mutually beneficial. It supports each other. And those tokens are the price people pay to have access to who you are. But it's also for you. When you give back, you have access to who they are as well. So the castle equals your sense of self. The castle represents your core self, your values, your identity, your inner world, and your self-worth. And in psychology, this relates to self-concept and self-esteem. And it's how you perceive yourself and the value that you place on who you are. A strong, secure castle reflects healthy self-esteem, where you recognize your intrinsic worth. Your intrinsic has the word in, so it's internal worth. Now, what is the moat in all this? Well, the moat is real simple. Those are your boundaries. And the moat symbolizes those personal boundaries, and boundaries are not always words. We confuse them. We think it's words. They are actions. And the psychological and emotional temporal limits are the boundaries. And they're there to protect your well-being. Now, there's many types of boundaries. And having taught self-defense for many years, physical boundaries is one of them. Personal space. Then there's emotional boundaries, protecting your feelings. Then we have the mental boundaries, which is your thoughts and your beliefs and your values. And then there's relational boundaries. It's your expectation of other people. And then finally, time. Time deserves a boundary because how you allocate your time and to whom. Now, the drawbridge, which is my favorite part, is really an example of the healthy relational dynamics. It represents the criteria for access, the list of what's required to gain access. People must demonstrate respect, care, and trustworthiness to enter your life. And it goes both ways because you have to access their castle. See how it all works? That's how it's mutual. Your kingdom and theirs. They must value and respect your time as a treasure, not something to be wasted. And this ties into psychological concepts. Well, it takes us over to assertiveness and becoming assertive with your communication, becoming assertive with your limits and what you're willing to accept or not accept, including how much time you're able to allocate and give. If we take a look into attachment theory, it's about ensuring secure connections with people who respect your boundaries. They respect your limits. Mutual reciprocity is important because it's there for healthy relationships, because there's mutual respect, mutual effort, and a mutual balance of time. And it's all an investment at the end of the day. So what if by chance you just refuse to lower the drawbridge? What is that signal? Well, refusing to lower your drawbridge, refusing to lower the drawbridge for access, it equals your self-respect, keeping that drawbridge raised for those who do not reflect your personal standards. They don't have respect for who you are. So you have to manage your own self-respect and your own self-preservation by disallowing access. This includes protecting your time from misuse or disrespect from other people. This is connected to emotional resilience. We have to be able to withstand pressure because people will pressure you to compromise your time, to compromise your values. And we need to have autonomy. And that means maintaining control over your time, your choices, and your priorities. Time as a treasure is inside your castle. It's part of your life. Because when you guard that time, you make time for yourself as well. And your personal values and internal self-worth is the treasure. Your inner self-worth is the treasure. Your personal inner world is the treasure. Your time is that finite resource that you can't get back. And it's much like the treasures inside your castle. If you allow people to take up your time without purpose or reciprocity, it depletes this resource. It may even deplete you emotionally. It could leave you unable to focus on what truly matters. And that's the thing. When you guard your time, you protect what matters in your life. That's what it's all about. When you set time-based boundaries, it helps you avoid overcommitment, wearing yourself too thin. And you have to maintain your productivity and protect your energy as well. Protect your peace as well. This involves saying no to requests or obligations that do not align with your own priorities. And that's why when we schedule our time and we do it intentionally, it's to minimize interruptions. But it's also so we can stay focused in other parts of our life. It's not like we're thumbing our nose at people and say, oh, you're interrupting me, you're annoying me. No, you are recognizing distractions so you can focus on what really matters. You still need to be humble. And when you limit access to your time for people who consistently misuse it, you are sending a message of relational respect for what's important, and that is time. Just as your visitors of the castle must earn entry into the castle, they must demonstrate respect for your time by using it wisely and valuing its very importance. Now, relationships of all kinds, they thrive. They thrive when time is an investment that is mutual. Let's face it, people want to spend time with each other in the beginning of a relationship. It becomes purposeful. We want to refuse time exploitation because people will try to, take up your time, and you have to keep that drawbridge raised for those who try to monopolize or waste your time. And it's all an act of your own self-respect. Life is indeed short. You cannot get time back. You want to avoid emotional burnout and the physical exhaustion from overextending yourself all the time. And protecting yourself from feeling taken advantage of. People are going to try to take advantage of you. And you could run into feelings of resentment when you allow them to take advantage of you. But why is this important? Why do we care? Why do we give a shit? From a psychological point, it's about maintaining your boundaries, including time boundaries as well, because time boundaries are crucial for mental health. They are crucial for preventing emotional exhaustion. They're crucial for preventing resentment and preventing stress by overcommitting yourself or the misuse of time. Inside that castle is mental health, and the people inside there you have to protect. Inside the castle is the people you love that are closest to you. You want to ensure that your interactions are based on mutual respect. They're based on mutual effort and based on mutual appreciation for your time. That's why people say thank you for your time. They say that. Because inside that castle, there's self-respect. And you must always be affirming and understanding your worth by prioritizing your time and energy for things that matter and relationships that matter and things that align with your values. When we incorporate the concept of time with the castle concept, it takes us to a totally different level. It serves as a strong reminder to not only protect your emotional aspect of who you are, but also your relational well-being, how you relate to others and your personal well-being. Time is an irreplaceable resource. Guarding it just simply ensures that you can focus on what matters to you the most. And it allows you to build authentic relationships. Remember, authenticity is never about being fake or anything like that. Authenticity is about no longer hiding parts of who you are so you could connect with others. Now let's take a look at how this castle applies to your life and leading your own life. We're going to go into the concept of adding soldiers into the mix. So you got your castle, you got your boundaries, but there's also soldiers. And we're going to use this in a different method. Consider your soldiers the efforts, both internally and externally. It's your efforts. It's your ability to go out into the world, outside of your castle, into the kingdom, on a journey. Because we want to journey towards career. We want to journey towards a relationship. We want to journey towards our goals. So we need to understand that every castle has soldiers. And their role is crucial. It's to the survival and growth of your personal kingdom. And some soldiers are tasked with venturing out into the world and engaging in those external pursuits. And while others remain inside the castle, guarding it, and of course, maintaining its inner strength. So I'm going to give you a few examples when we start to throw soldiers into the mix, how this applies, how this is true. These two roles represent the balance that we navigate. It's simply the balance between your inner world and the outward action. And efforts are all part of it. And it's also connects to that inward reflection, how you reflect internally about your decisions. Because life is going to call for these soldiers to go out into the world, to go make harmony. You're going to be dividing your energy between you and them, between you and the collective. And if you're a leader, you could be ruling over a collective. You could be leading a collective. And you could be protecting your own treasures within. So let's explore how this dynamic applies to relationships and money, and the delicate balance between that introspection, introspection needed to make your internal decisions, and the engagement and effort with the outside world. Because life is going to pull you in two seemingly opposite directions. It's the castle, and the soldiers have the duty of balancing and protecting your inner kingdom within. And they have to explore the outer world. They have to go out and be vulnerable. They have to be vulnerable. When you're developing relationships, you have to be vulnerable. These two movements, the internal and the external, are both crucial because they let us tap into how we reflect on the inside and how we engage with the world while also safeguarding our inner selves. Let's go further. Let's go further with these soldiers and really explore this delicate balance. We'll use relationships and we'll use money, for example. It even gets down to self-discovery as well. So the soldiers are going out. They're leaving the castle. And they symbolize your outward engagement, your outward efforts, like we talked about, your pursuits, your ambitions, and your interactions with other people. They represent how your energy is directed into the outside world. And they go out to understand the world, build things, and connect with the world. And maybe even bring some love to the outside world. Your soldiers are venturing beyond the castle walls. It's like going out into the world. You might stay home all day, but you have to get out. At some point, the world needs you. The castle walls are akin to the boundaries when you're meeting new people. But you have to make relational efforts. You have to form bonds with people, connect with people, navigate the relational complexities that exist. Create connection. It's an outward focus and it's necessary for you to use so you can build relationships. You can experience love. You can learn about other people. And if the soldiers spend all their time outside of the castle, you know what happens? Your inner world is left unguarded. You no longer pay attention to who you are. You become vulnerable to imbalance because relationships require effort and there's that mutual kingdom sharing. External efforts and understanding the internal. If you pour all your energy into pleasing others all the time and you're seeking external validation all the time, your castle will eventually begin to crumble. Your core self will begin to crumble from neglect. And the castle may be an important idea because some soldiers actually abandon the castle. Right? We abandon who we are, and dust may collect inside that castle as well. Things go unchecked. So we go unchecked internally. So in reality, some people lose their identity through giving too much to somebody else, not having boundaries where they should. They no longer know who they are. I've heard from hundreds of people that I've coached. They say, I don't know who I am anymore. And this happens. It also happens with money. In financial terms, if you're sending the soldiers out, That represents going out into the world and earning, networking, and growing your resource. That the world needs you. It's the external effort and drive to achieve your success, to move the needle forward on your career, to explore those external opportunities and how you can make a difference in the world. And you will take on risks. You can mitigate them. It's always a possibility. These efforts are needed. And if you're overextending, it can leave your inner world feeling hollow, as if the wealth you pursued is at the cost of your inner peace or the ethical aspects of how you ground yourself. If you chase external things too much and you make everything extrinsic, then when those things are gone, you will feel hollow at some point. And if the soldiers are constantly engaged in the extrinsic chase and you're relentlessly pushing and pursuing towards external rewards all the time, you're constantly out there all the time, seeking validation. It could be validation through objects. Hey, I feel amazing because I have the house, the car, and the microwave, right? But the castle itself will begin to suffer on the inside. That's our internal world. And the walls will weaken from neglect. And the treasures inside will lose their value. It's kind of like when people finally achieve something and they feel hollow after it. And they say, is this it? Is this all that there is? And they take things for granted. They have to be able to make the inner kingdom thrive. And becoming vulnerable to outside forces is part and parcel of it all. Because when there's no one left to guard the gates, the castle's heart, the core of self-worth, our inner peace, our reflection, it all becomes hollow and vulnerable. We become vulnerable to stress, vulnerable to external problems. And it becomes an empty chase because there's a start date and end date for everything in this world. And there has to be some kind of celebration inside of the castle. After all, you have to be able to pat your soldiers on the back and say, you know what? You guys did great. When was the last time you told yourself you did well? It's good for your self-worth. Pat yourself on the back. Celebrate the small wins as tiny milestones. Because the soldiers in their constant external pursuit of external things, we tend to fall in and forget about the importance of replenishing your inner resources, your inner strength. That's a solid foundation. Without it, the kingdom risks crumbling, and it leaves all of your treasures unprotected. And the soul of the kingdom is lost, and the love that was there is lost. It's important to reflect. We don't have to be hyper vigilant. We have to understand that the outer world needs us. We can be focused on our protection, our introspection. We can maintain our kingdom strength. But the outside world needs us. We can work quietly. We can ensure that the walls are strong and the drawbridge has enough values, and keep things secure and protected for yourself. This is true in relationships. Your soldiers remind you of the importance of your self-reflection and the efforts that you make in the relationships. Understanding your needs, guarding your emotional boundaries. People that stay within their castle too much, then what will happen is like no man or woman is an island. That's basically what happens. The people that stay in their castle too much could be the hyper independent, fear of betrayal. And you have to be able to have that inner solitude, but also go out into the world and make efforts. You have to recharge your inner batteries emotionally without losing your soldiers, without risking yourself. You can go out into the world and take chances in the external world. but you should never forget who you are at your core, understanding your self-worth. A healthy relationship balances your outward connection, your outward efforts, with your moments of introspection and the way you reflect about that relationship and what you bring to it. And remember, the kingdoms are mutual. You have to ask yourself, am I being true to myself in this bond? Am I being true to myself in this relationship? Am I giving too much? Are the soldiers out there too much? With money, you look at the castle dynamic. You're focused on your soldiers, and your soldiers represent your financial introspection. It's assessing your values about savings, about money management, your financial wellness, your investments. We have to ensure that you spend and save your cash wisely, not letting the external material pursuits always define your self-worth. Because if that's the case, when those external objects are gone, your self-worth is gone too. It can never be found again. It can never be found in objects because objects are temporary. True self-worth will only exist for as long as objects do. There's a truth bomb for you. It's about creating stability within your castle so your external wealth doesn't control your inner sense of security. You can go after those things. I'm not saying you can't. But when you make it your everything and you become attached to it, you lose sight of contentedness. You have to be content with who you are without the constant need of the external chase. It's the balance between the two. Just as the castle needs the soldiers both inside and out, we have to be able to balance our introspection with the way we engage externally out in the world and how we use our money out in the world. Understanding the value of how we handle our finances and how it's externally used. Life will constantly pull us between the two forces of exploring the outside world and the internal world, the internal introspection. Understanding the external gain and the internal worth. The castle and its soldiers teach us the idea that both are necessary. The key is knowing when to send your soldiers out and when to keep them inside the castle to protect your home, to protect who you are. By finding this harmony between the two, you ensure that your kingdom thrives, both inside and out. Simply put, at the end of the day, your inner world connects entirely to the outside world and how you develop yourself internally as a leader and how you interact with the outside world. Now, the concept of a castle, a lot of people may not like the analogy or the concept of the castle. There's people that will just heap scorn on the idea because of the fact that it somehow doesn't connect to their values, or they may find it to be too militant in some way, whatever the case may be. First thing I want you to get you to understand is those people who usually try to crap on an analogy or crap on an examples is really those people that somehow the analogy is opposing their internal values that already exist. All right. Otherwise, it wouldn't bother you. Right. But that's what happens with some people. Some people that miss the lesson will heap scorn on the lesson. Okay. What do I mean by that? They'll throw dirt on a concept just merely out of the idea that it somehow opposes who they are. It's opposite of their identity. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be threatening to them. And it may not be threatening on a grandiose level, but at some level, the people who thumb their nose at the lesson usually are ones that miss the lesson the most. And that's my point. The castle, at the end of the day, is a symbol of protection, a symbol of growth. It is connected to the inner world and the outside world. And castles, historically, have provided safety and stability. And that's our internal world, feeling safe and having a sense of stability in our lives. It serves as sanctuaries for not only personal well-being, but a communal well-being as well. You know, your family is communal in a way, right? It's a small group. And it's also the efforts in the outside world of the community and people in our neighborhood. So the walls really symbolize the healthy boundaries that protect you emotionally, protect your mental health. Okay? And it's also connected to collaboration because you're going to have to collaborate. Castles have always hosted markets, celebrations, all kinds of gatherings, and they emphasize connection and shared resources over conflict. I'm not here to use some feudalistic, medieval concept saying that you should live your life in a medieval sense. No, this is a metaphor to get you to understand your inner world and in relationship to the outside world and how you interact with it. It's not to be defensive by design. They stood firm against external threats for a reason. It's illustrating our personal resilience rather than a militaristic or confrontational point of view. Don't get it twisted. It's a metaphor for personal development. And the walls represent our boundaries. They keep toxic crap out. It keeps out the negative influences, and it allows space for internal creativity, internal reflection. And as you know, the moat is all about what's required for that mutual reciprocity. And that's the drawbridge, how they access you. And that's sovereignty and intentional living, because castles represent stewardship. And that's part of leadership. That's stewardship over your domain, being it physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever the case may be. We have to nurture what matters most. It's not about being selfish, because the outside world will need you. You may have to prepare for battle based on what matters to you the most. Simply put, at the end of the day, your inner world connects to the outside world and how you interact with it. That is all for today. Make sure you subscribe and share this with all the people who actually need to hear it. Just remember, love, strength, and boundaries. Guard your gates, protect your castle, protect your internal peace, and I will see you on the next episode. Have a great day.